So would you still stand by what you've said at times in the past, that actually the United States should simply just take action against Iran?
Absolutely, and I think we could do it. I think we could send several Iranian ships that are in the Red Sea aiding the Houthis. We could send them to the bottom of the Red Sea.
Okay, so recently we just lost 2 U.S. commandos, 2 Navy SEALs over there in Houthi territory, over there off the coast of Somalia, somewhere close to Yemen, in the DNC, Indian Ocean area. And the reason why I'm saying it like that, because we're still kind of in the dark. We don't know what the hell happened, because we're given these details by the government, by the federales, but they're always holding something back because the government constantly lies to us. So according to the feds, we had Navy SEALs running an operation. They were trying to intercept, and by intercept I mean raid, a boat of armed militiamen who were allegedly transporting weapons from Iran to Yemen for the Houthis, which is the Yemeni army. But allegedly it was off the coast of Somalia, which the geography on it doesn't make sense. But let's look at this short clip here to see what happened.
Kate, U.S. Central Command is saying that after an 11-day search by sea and air, those 2 Navy SEALs have now been declared dead. They lost their lives off the coast of Somalia on a mission to intercept Iranian weapons.
Okay, so according to the federales, you had these Navy SEALs trying to raid this boat. They said it was in the middle of the night. They were trying to crash aboard this boat to seize it, to stop the Houthi from getting weapons. And a wave hit one of the SEALs and he fell into the ocean. And another SEAL immediately dived into the water after him. And they were both lost at sea. Apparently, there's been this big rescue operation. They had Spain and Japan helping the U.S. Navy trying to search for these guys. And they finally said, okay, they're gone. They're dead. We're not going to find them. But it went from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. So the United States finally came out and admitted that the SEALs are dead to begin with, even though I think that story that they're giving us is a lie. But people are constantly asking, well, what are the SEALs doing there? What's the United States doing there? Why are they in the Gulf of Aden on the other side of the world? Well, the reason why people are asking that because most Americans have their heads in the sand. They're not paying attention to what's happening. I tried to tell people a little while ago, the United States is at war with another country in the Middle East. You have thousands of U.S. servicemen over there, sailors, Marines, you got the Navy SEALs over there, probably Delta Force. Who knows what other assets the United States has over there, but thousands of personnel over there. You're launching airstrikes, trying to do commando raids and everything because the United States is at war with a whole country, and this country is backed by and is probably very likely a proxy of Iran, who is partners with Russia and China. So I think that these guys were KIA. So they're giving us this story saying, well, these SEALs, they were in the middle of the night trying to raid a boat with armed militiamen, and one of them just happened to get hit by a wave and fall into the ocean. I think this guy was shot. They were probably both shot and likely fell into the ocean, but who knows the exact circumstance of such a gunfight. But I believe that these guys have been KIA because that makes much more sense. We're talking about an extremely dangerous operation. We're talking about these Houthi over here who want a fight from the United States. These guys have been craving this type of action. So you're in the middle of the night trying to climb onto one of their vessels. Yeah, it's going to turn into a gunfight. So when you say, well, we lost 2 servicemen, but don't worry, nobody was shot, anything like that, it was just a wave and somebody fell into the ocean, I don't believe it. Because the feds, like I said, the federales are constantly lying to us. And I understand the Navy SEALs, they always run secret missions. They don't like being out in public. They're very secretive. And then on top of that, the feds, they don't want this out because, one, they be embarrassed. The feds, the media, everybody who constantly pushes Western propaganda, these people have said, oh, the Houthis, they're some ragtag group of rebels. They're trash. They're sorry. They suck. They are incapable of doing anything. And then next thing you know, 2 of your elite spec ops guys are dead. So you don't want that getting out there because all these people who talked all this crap, including the federales, they'd be embarrassed. Then, like I said, most Americans, they have their heads in the sand. They're not paying attention. And once you come out and acknowledge, we just took a couple of casualties in our war in Yemen, proxy of Iran, allegedly proxy of Iran. We just took a couple of casualties. Then you have to respond to that. And what's that going to do? Is that going to lead to a wider war? So the administration would rather most people not pay attention, because that way they can run all of these wars, undeclared, unconstitutional wars, get money paid to the military industrial complex, because you're constantly running these operations. They call them operations, they don't call them wars. Operation Prosperity Guardian. So you can run all of these wars. All y'all politicians, corrupt military officials, people at the Pentagon, people in the military industrial complex, all of y'all can get paid. All of y'all get rich off of these wars, yet another war in a third world country, while there's not massive Americans out there demanding for de-escalation, for peace, because most people aren't paying attention. So if you say, oh yeah, a Navy SEAL died because he was hit by a wave, people say, oh, my thoughts and prayers, this is so sad, this is such a sad situation. But when you say, oh yeah, we were over here trying to seize a boat, which some people call piracy, when one group seizes a boat of assets from another group, usually you call it piracy, but in this case, since it's the Americans doing it, I guess they call it seizing. But if you acknowledge that they were seizing a boat from the Yemeni military, then it's going to draw way more attention to it. But I think even in a case like that, when you start acknowledging it publicly, a lot of people have been so conditioned by propaganda in the West, and they think that the United States is so completely unstoppable. And we've been at war for so long, before half these people have been alive in the Middle East, that people are going to pay attention to, oh, well, it's just a bunch of ragtag, trash terrorists, and we'll wipe them out. We don't have to pay attention to it at all. It's nothing to think about. And that's exactly how the administration wants it to be. But let's look at John Kirby, a spokesperson for Joe Biden. Let's look at a statement he made about these Navy SEALs.
And then lastly, I'd be remiss speaking about the field of battle if I did not also point you to the president's statement today acknowledging and mourning the death of 2 Navy SEALs who were killed while conducting an interdiction operation in the Gulf of Aden, trying to interdict munitions and weapons that we believe were heading from Iran to the Houthis in Yemen. It underscores how dangerous the mission can be, and the dangers that these brave warriors are willing to face every day.
So that sounded like a Freudian slip, because he said they were killed. Now, normally if somebody dies in a accident like that, you get hit by a wave, you die. The way people phrase that type of death, you don't normally say they were killed. You say, oh man, this accident happened, they died doing this and that. But when you say they killed, I'm thinking, yeah, you slipped up, because like I said, it makes more sense that these guys died in a gunfight against the Houthi. So United States is already having trouble over there in Yemen. They only have a handful of ships over there because they can't commit that many assets. You got to worry about the Russians. They're definitely, in a naval perspective, they're definitely worried about Taiwan and China. And you're over here trying to protect Israel because you think Hezbollah might try something. So how many assets the United States is being stretched in? How much can you commit to Yemen? So you have a handful of ships, and most of the people in NATO and around the world, these U.S. allies or U.S. flunkies, vassal states, most of these guys told the United States no to their coalition of the willing. They tried to build a new George Bush-style coalition of the willing, and most of these countries said, no, we're not going to be part of it. UK and the United States, they're the only ones out there with ships. Then France, I think it was France and Italy, they sent some ships, but they said, we're not part of your coalition. I think they sent probably 1 or 2 ships each. And a few other countries sent some admin, staff officers. So they had trouble building this coalition of the willing. The United States is dropping all these bombs. They're sitting safe in their planes, safe in their ships. Tomahawk missiles, cruise missiles, stuff like that. And it's not working. They've hit the Houthis, said, oh, we hit dozens of targets. And the Houthis said, we don't care. We're going to keep firing. Let's look at this. I think the Pentagon knows, if they're still competent people at the Pentagon, I think they know that this is a failed endeavor. If you're going to sit safely in your boats, you're going to sit safely in your planes and launch missiles from afar, you're not going to be able to stop the Houthi from doing what they're doing. It's going to take the United States committing tens of thousands of men on the ground in Yemen, which is a full-blown war, in order to stop the Houthi from launching missiles over there into the Red Sea, which they're doing to help Palestine, because Palestine is being decimated by the Israelis. 25,000 civilians have been killed over there in Gaza. But if the United States was to commit such a large ground force into Yemen, the whole region will blow up. Like I said, Iran leads this resistance alliance over there in the Middle East. You got Hezbollah, you got the Houthis in Yemen, you got militias in Iraq and Syria. They're all against what they call the Great Satan of the United States and Israel. So if the United States commits such a large force in Yemen, which is a massive amount of assets for the United States being stretched so thin, you're going to have way more vicious attacks in Iraq. You're going to have way more vicious attacks in Syria. Hezbollah might do something in Israel. They're already fighting. So the United States knows that they can do such thing. Then on top of that, they know that the Houthis have the capability of wiping out Saudi oil fields. The Saudi are begging the United States to just calm things down because they're trying to be on good terms with Iran. And they don't want the Houthi to bomb their airfields. And they know if they get into some type of scuffle with the Houthi, they're on bad terms with Iran, and that can escalate. So basically, if the United States was to commit ground forces in Yemen to fight the Yemeni army, the Houthi, then the entire region will blow up. So it's just an untenable idea. And on top of that, the United States isn't willing to do that because they don't want casualties like that. The U.S. public, especially after decades of war, is unable to stomach casualties in these wars anymore. And these Houthi, these guys, if you start researching and look deeply into what they are, these guys are like the Spartans from the movies that Americans glorified. Like, these guys are born for war. They crave fights, especially with Israelis and Americans. They're training all their lives. They think it's an honor to be killed in action against the Americans. Is a worthy cause in their religion. They're glorified, stuff like that. So these guys want to die in a fight against the Americans, and the Americans don't want to lose a single soldier. Losing a single soldier is a really big deal. That's why the administration has to lie about a situation like this with 2 SEALs going missing allegedly. So the United States is in a very precarious situation because you can't go on the ground and stop the Houthi, but you can't stop them from your ships and your planes. And then on top of that, you really can't even afford to go into these wars because you have to print more money, be trillions of more dollars from another decades-long foreign war in the Middle East. And on top of that, American political leadership runs in such short cycles. 4 years, you got one guy trying to do this thing. Then 4 years later, completely different outlook in American leadership. So when you're constantly changing leadership, it's really hard for a country to have long-term direction. That's why these countries who fight against the United States, and the United States has a decades-long record of failed wars against these little third world countries, it hasn't had a successful regime change since World War II in Japan. These countries have learned, oh, the way to beat the United States is a war of attrition. You just hold off, keep fighting for years on end, and eventually the Americans are going to get in their planes and get in their ships and sail away, fly away. So what's going to happen from here? Well, the UK and the US, they're going to continue to bomb spots in Yemen, but it's not going to work. The Yemeni are going to continue to fight. They're going to continue to launch missiles, and they're going to continue to divert civilian vessels away from the Red Sea. Let me know what you guys think about this. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.